Customer Commerce Podcast, where technology's fast and biz is a blast.
In life and in business, time is precious. It's why customers stay or leave and why businesses succeed or fail. We're here to give a voice to everything that makes business, whether as a customer or as a CEO, easier and more rewarding. Welcome to the Customer Commerce Podcast. Let's dive in. Welcome, ladies and gents, to episode 19 of the Customer Commerce Podcast. I'm Jess, your host, and today we've got a fantastic conversation with Mikel Diamond, CEO of Arcurious, and of course, Mikel Lindsaar, CEO and founder of Store Connect. Now, for a bit of background, Mikel Diamond brings a unique blend of commercial expertise and tech insight to the table. He's been helping clients achieve their full potential through Arcurious, where he leads strategy, change, and tech projects designed with empathy at their core. With years of experience, an MBA, and a strong customer-centered approach, Mikel and his team has collaborated across sectors like health, finance, and travel to help clients implement digital strategies that are truly transformative. Some of his clients include sustainable salons, Who is Elijah, and Suncorp. In today's episode, we dive into some key themes from Dreamforce this year, including the future of e-commerce, the role of AI, and why personalized customer relationships are more important than ever. Both Mikels share insights on the challenges of balancing data, technology, and human connection in business, and offer actionable tips on building customer relationships that last. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Mikel Diamond, great to have you here on the pod, aside from working together with Store Connect as one of our awesome implementation partners. We've actually spent quite a little bit of time with you recently doing videos, interviews, and recently we had you hang out with us at Dreamforce.
Rock on.
We can sing songs to the mobile phone. That's okay. We're not going to edit that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's such a celebrity that even when he's getting interviewed, he still takes incoming calls. It's like, sorry, speak to the head. I got to take this call right now.
Switch it off.
I know, it's all happening. I would like to know what you took out of Dreamforce this year. I know you've been a couple of times. Was there anything you noticed, inspired you, shocked you, moved you in terms of like then going into the new year with the e-commerce industry and expansion for business owners?
Oh, big question. Big question. I mean, Dreamforce was what we always expect from Dreamforce. Chaos, lots of things happening, lots of information on agents and bots. Obviously, that's been the really big thing in our face this year was how do you connect your customer, business, operational data and your customers in a way that, you know, takes out the stuff in the middle, right? Like all that admin and all the stress and streamlining your process and streamlining your business and engaging with customers through agents that are super intelligent. So that was one big thing for me. There were, you know, again, there's been a bit of a whirlwind over the last kind of 12 months with LLMs and really a lot of confusion about how do we actually start and what do we really need to consider to make sure that these things are not operating independently in these silos and potentially doing harm to not just our businesses, but our communities. And there's been some stuff in the news recently that has been relatively shocking. And how Salesforce is now taking away some of that risk by grounding that data and in your, or at least grounding the responses in your data, putting that trust layer across it and putting that reasoning engine in the middle. I think that's so powerful. Obviously really exciting on the Store Connect side as well, because you're on platform, so you can take advantage of all that stuff immediately. Outside of that, you know, there's been a lot of other new announcements, so improvements on, you know, marketing on core and some of the foundation stuff and some of the data stuff, and data cloud as a beast as well is really starting to take shape. So those are the things that I'm really excited about. The way that will impact our customers, we're having some really interesting conversations at the moment, whether it's, you know, customers who have, you know, massive amounts of transactional or behavioral data that needs to be understood and processed. We're dealing with one of those kinds of clients at the moment, or customers who, again, just want to take some of the risk out of their operations by having things like LLM and agents running across the back end to say, okay, if I make a change over here, is there a contractual obligation or impact over here, right? So trying to streamline complexity in a whole new way and trying to engage customers in a whole new way. Those are the probably big takeaways for me.
Because I feel like it's definitely moving into that futuristic world now where everyone's like, this is great, but how can we actually do it so it works and I understand it as a business owner? Well, I know Arcurious, the company you've created, is driven by curiosity and a very strong desire to help through your services and collaborations with businesses that do genuinely care and want to sell just, more than a product or service. And actually both of you, both Michaels, spelt differently, so each unique in their own spelling. You actually both have that in common with running Store Connect and Arcurious. And I'd like to know from each of you, when you first felt that desire to help, specifically in your professional careers. It's one thing to do that, in your personal life, but then another thing to create a business that does earn profit and income while being able to create it so that it can really genuinely help. And I'm sure you both go above and beyond within that business as well. But when was that first moment that you felt like I really want to help? And how do you think it's impacted your business in a positive way and personal life, if so, when applying this as your mission as CEOs and founders? MD? I'm going to call you MD throughout this podcast.
MD, nice.
MD.
Oh, excuse me. Got me choked up. I think, throughout my career, I've always tried to find ways of giving back in one way or another, right? So whether it's helping people who are new to the ecosystem find the confidence of jumping in, that's something we do a lot, and I'm able to do it at Arcurious in a much bigger way, which has been extremely rewarding. We can talk about a couple of those in a sec as well. And we were just really, really fortunate, I guess. So, again, at previous organizations, we spoke a lot about doing good, but I didn't actually feel like I was doing good. When I started Arcurious, we had our very first customer, very fortunately, actually, was Sustainable Salons, who we have spoken about a lot, also a Store Connect customer. And one of the great things with Sustainable Salons is it was an immediate alignment for me from a personal perspective as well. So in terms of values, very much aligned. And what I loved about the Sustainable Salons business is they talk about people, planet, and profit, right? So we hear this term social enterprise thrown around a lot. And even when I was finishing my MBA, my last or second last module, I went to India and did a social enterprise specific module over there, and understanding that dichotomy between what is a charity and what is a social enterprise, right? So for me, charities to a certain degree, lots of value. They do so much good in the world, but they're very much reliant on philanthropists and donors, where social enterprises can really accelerate the good they do through profit, right? So by driving a profitable business, you make doing good more than just a feel-good exercise. You actually are able to show that there's more value out there, and people are willing to support businesses who do have an element of action to how they drive their businesses, right? So from an Arcurious perspective, I like working with businesses like that because we see ourselves as a bit of an amplifier. So we amplify the good other people do. I can't possibly go and chase every one of my passions. I love the environment. I love people. I love sustainability. I love, if you go through the list of the UN social goals, I forget what they're called, but the 16 goals. I could jump into every one of those and go, I'd love to do something, but that means I don't have any impact if I spread my experience across those elements, and I don't certainly have enough money to throw at everything, right? So the opportunity to work with companies that do that. So sustainable salons, great example. Sustainability, social enterprise. We had a bit of a quiet dip due to economic factors and everything else, as a lot of people in our market have. I had an option to kick a bunch of people to the curb, which I really didn't want to do, and still don't want to do, or look at ways of keeping them busy. And one of the opportunities that we've kind of been working with this organization on and off for a while, a beautiful organization called the Arise Foundation. They needed some help, just again, in terms of understanding the volunteers that they manage and the people they impact. And we decided to take that on as a pro bono project, just to get them on the platform, give them a really high quality deliverable. And we just started that project this week, which is super exciting for the team. Opportunity for some of my team who are less familiar with Salesforce to get more on the platform with the right support from us, and an awesome opportunity for a charity who would not necessarily have the funding to go and do the type of project we're doing, right? So we're not talking about necessarily a small scale engagement. We're talking about quite an investment from the Arcurious team here, which will hopefully have a massive positive impact on this business. And the good that they do is really helping women through that back end of the domestic abuse journey, right? So helping re-educate and re-inform and get these women back into the workforce after going through what would have been quite a traumatic part of their life. So the opportunity to do that stuff is immensely valuable for me personally, but also as an organization. I don't like using it. In fact, I often don't talk about this stuff because I don't see it as a marketing position. It's, hey, we are over here doing good. I don't need to talk about the good that we necessarily do because I know we're doing it. But also I understand it's great for those organizations to also get some airtime, right? So Arise Foundation, amazing organization doing an amazing amount of good. In the business, as I mentioned earlier, we do also take that opportunity to bring people into the ecosystem. So a great example, one of our team, she had been out of the workforce for 10 years doing motherhood stuff. Really wanted to kind of get back into the market. We met her through Generation Australia, who also do a lot of good in the world. And we gave her that first opportunity to kind of get into the Salesforce ecosystem. And I remember when we put her on her first project, she kind of had tears in her eyes, and she was like, for the last 5 years of however long she'd been in Australia for, walking to the train station to take her kids to school and seeing everybody get on commuting trains and go. And she's like, one day that'll be me. And she was like, today that was the day. So, nice to be able to impact people's lives in that way as well, and give them those opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
So give Michael the stick now.
Michael,
well, thanks. I don't know how to follow that up, but I think, Mr. Diamond has sort of hit the nail on the head. I think one of my favorite life philosophies I have is that you as an individual are only as valuable as you can help other people. And if you're not out there figuring that out, the scales and the balance of the universe will not go in your favor long term. And there's a lot of ways you can help people, actually delivering a service and taking money for that and good exchange is helping people. There's no problem with that. And in fact, unless you do that, you're not able to be philanthropic because you've got no income to philanthropic kick over, right? So there's a lot of aspect of this. And you're asking me, when did I start helping or wanting to help? I remember I sat down with a purpose, with a friend of mine about 30 years ago when I was a full-time volunteer. So I was a full-time volunteer for 10 years. You don't make a lot of money when you're volunteering full-time, I found out. And I was sitting down helping someone with a major life problem. I was helping people get off drugs. I was repairing marriages. I was helping hardcore criminals get back into the workforce. I was doing all this sort of stuff just on a volunteer basis. And I sat down with this person and helped them resolve a situation in their life. And I saw a light bulb go off on this person. And you can go and ask this person today, at what point did your career change? And she'll go, 23.6 years ago when I was sitting down with Michael in this room and blah, blah, blah happened, And that sort of thing is life-changing as an individual. If you can work out how you can bring true joy to someone through enabling them to achieve their goals and purposes, life will beat a path to your door, right? And I think this is true in every situation. I'm not saying it's all roses, because it won't be, When you're dealing with other people's roses, you're going to get hit by thorns, and that's just the way it is. But you have to be willing to take that and go, okay, well, what part of that aspect did I not take full responsibility for, or what part of that did I turn a blind eye to when I should have really looked a bit further? And then if you figure that out, then you won't feel upset about it, because you go, well, okay, I created that. That's fine. Let's keep going, right? And, speaking to Michael's point, he went through a period where there was a downturn. I had the same thing during COVID. I was running a software company that did custom software development. And during COVID, everyone went, well, we're just going to cancel all of those projects. And I'm sure Michael had a similar scene in the same sort of industry. And I was there holding, a 35-person payroll, earning 3 people worth of income. It's like, okay, well, what do you do? Lay everyone off, or you fully mortgage the house and put it back in the company to keep everyone employed? And, you make those decisions, and they're rough and they're tough, and you still pay for them many years later. The world is back on track on COVID, and I'm still paying the debt that I took on to handle that thing, So there's a lot of these sorts of things that you have to resolve. But at the end of the day, if you really find that purpose and find out how you can help someone else through your business and create joy in other people's lives, or solve a serious problem for them through what you do, and you can get paid for it, and you can do well for it, then you sleep really well at night. And you can wake up in the morning not with an anguish of, oh my gosh, I have to drag myself to work. You can wake up in the morning and just go, it's another day, and get into it. And that's really a powerful aspect, I think, of, it's why we created, it's why I've created Store Connect. It's why I've created all of my companies. But, the Store Connect aspect is quite interesting, because we're focusing in, and like this podcast is all about customer commerce, right? So how does that help? Well, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to ask you, Michael, on the customer commerce aspect. This podcast is all about how companies can regain their superpower of a relationship with their customer that supersedes keeps that customer engaged with them and enjoying working with them and paying them money and contributing to them in that two-way street in a world of crazy noise, right? The number of messages we get. I guess, from you run Arcurious, you do a lot of CRM work. What is it that you're seeing that clients are trying to look at in terms of reconnecting to that customer? And you also sort of mentioned it in the AI thing from Dreamforce, but why do you think that is important for those companies to really understand that customer now?
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing over the years, right? Like, I'd say even the last 10 or 15 years is really personalize that customer experience. Have many organizations done that well to date?
It's amazing how few, hey?
Yeah. But the messaging hasn't changed. Like, the best way to engage customers is through personalized experiences at scale. And I think there's a few companies that do the personalized experiences thing really well, but not at scale. And there's a lot of companies that do a lot at scale, but you still don't feel like you're being engaged directly as a customer, right? So I think that piece of the puzzle we're still trying to figure out.
But do you think that's even can you be super personalized at scale? I mean, isn't the whole AI thing? I mean, I've just generalized an incredibly large industry that's going to absolutely revolutionize the world. But I think there's going to be some very smart players in the AI space, and I think there's going to be a bunch of people that get burnt very, very badly. It's like any new industry, right? But is that even, do you think, possible? Like, are we trying to do too much in removing the human connection and then end up in a situation where there just is none, and we just have my AI bots responding to your AI generated sales calls, and they just have a fight, and then eventually it comes up to the human and says, actually, you should probably go talk to Diamond because he's got a service we need. Like, is that where we're going to get to, do you think?
I hope not, but you're probably not far off the mark there. I think, to answer your first part of the question, a personalized experience, I think, does very much include the human element. And it kind of, for the time being, I want to make full-on statements because they'll become very wrong very quickly. But for the time being, I think, again, the human element is super important. I think personalization as a concept is achievable where you've developed a long-term relationship already with the customer. So it's not going to happen on your first engagement, and it's probably not going to happen by your 10th engagement. But over a long period with the customer, you should be able to develop an awesome relationship. Like my electricity company should know me really well, but they don't engage me at a personal level at all. I get a bill once a month or once a quarter, and it's really cold. And if I have a problem, it's difficult to engage with them, right? So that's not an awesome experience. If I look at, maybe a couple of our customers where they're starting to at least put the right bits in place, and where I think something like AI could play an interesting part is, hey, we're a fragrance brand. You've bought particular perfumes from us for the last 5 or 6 years. We're a premium in that our perfumes are quite expensive, sometimes $1,000 a bottle, sometimes $200 a bottle, right? But to have the ability to actually go, okay, actually, Michael, you may or may not be buying that flowery perfume for yourself because you're also buying, sandalwood and tobacco smelling things. Who are you buying for? Understand the network that I'm dealing with. Then the AI can also overlay that and go, okay, who are you buying for this time, Michael? Is it for yourself or for the wife? And then go, oh, actually, she really likes these fragrances and these scents and these smells, and have that personal shopper experience at scale. I think that's where personalization is going to kind of turn a little bit. Will we ever get a truly personalized experience without a human really invested in our story? Maybe not, or at least not for a while.
Not until we get to Ian Banks' level of autonomous machines. I get, one of the other things that, because we're trying to work out how to use, we've got a whole bunch of ideas, but in our company, in Store Connect itself, in terms of how we deal with our own clients, one of the things that we've either just turned on or it's very close to is using AI to do summaries of cases as they come in. And instead of trying to use AI to deflect the customer, using AI to empower the service agent to have the information they need at their fingertips to solve the problem that the customer's having in a very direct, personal way, right? Yeah. Because there's two things. If someone calls in and goes, hey, the website's broken, right? Well, that's just one data point. The agent that's handling that might be on the US time zone and wasn't there the last time it happened in the Australian time zone, so has no empathy or no reality on the fact that this is the 15th time this has happened in 2 weeks, right? That's a much bigger problem. And handling that level of data, maybe that's one of the things that these companies can look at in terms of, how do I actually use this AI tooling? It's one thing. I don't know if anyone who's listening to the podcast saw the Saks keynote demonstration of the live voice agent, but that was truly impressive. But delivering that I can guarantee you there was a truly impressive price tag attached to that as well. And, that might be out of reach from a lot of people, but getting that first level of, well, let's just get the data under control,
Yeah.
and make it so that people can actually have that conversation and be aware. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I think from a service perspective, it's almost easier to a certain degree, right? Because at that stage, customers already bought, something about them, and something about not only what they bought, but also their experience to date, as long as you have the right systems in place to start with, right? But something that is enormously frustrating, and I've probably experienced it twice in the last 2 or 3 weeks, is you engage with a customer service team through either email or messaging. They've got a round robin response to who's handling their case at any one time. And you kind of almost have to re-explain at least part of your story. And nobody really truly understands your point, Michael, that empathy layer, right? So having either an AI agent informing the human agent to say, you're the 5th person he's spoken to, his issue's still not resolved, and it's been 6 weeks. Just understand he's going to be a bit frustrated here. And by the way, here's a recap of what's been discussed so far. I had an immensely annoying one just trying to order some curtains, and they were delivered in store but not delivered in store, and then the part of it was being repaired and part of it was, and nobody actually had a clear picture of where it was, and nobody could do anything about it. It's just like,
isn't that so frustrating when your job is building those systems?
drives me nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Please give me the phone number of your IT guy. I gotta sell you something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's an interesting point. And then, yes, the personalization piece. Yes, a lot of customers or companies that we're talking with at the moment are doing the loyalty thing. And, again, that comes right around back to personalization because you're wanting to improve that engagement. But I think it's also finding other ways to engage, right? So we had another conversation today. Company in the kind of medical space, their customers / patients are, once they have that particular disease, they have it for life. And you need to have, orthotics, braces, all that kind of stuff to in order to go through rehabilitation. And often those customers will go, okay, I've spent 2 years doing this, or a year, I feel better. They stop doing it. And then the engagement kind of drops off, even though those people will continue having that issue, and they will continue to decline over their time, right? So even in a sensitive medical scenario, it's like, well, we know these people, we know what they have, we know their condition, we know the device that they need, we know the rehabilitation they need, but we're kind of losing them midway. So again, like, I guess that customer commerce story here still is, how do we actually engage those people in the right way, and how do we use tools, whether it's actually just centralizing your data and understanding who these people are and what they have, and clinical data is always a bit of a question mark around what you can and can't do with it. The element of, okay, we've sold to you, now we need to service you over a period of time, and actually keep you engaged in your own health journey, I think is another really interesting one. So, marketing automation, CRM, AI, like, what are the right sets of tools that you need to put in place? And you probably have an opinion on that as well there, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, Jess, I think, asked me a question a couple of podcasts ago about what would I do as a small business, when I'm faced with all of these problems. And I think there's a lot of old adages that hold true. It's like, get your house in order. It's, you can't personalize that which you don't have any data on, like, as you brought up,
Yeah.
right? And I think there's a lot of, I'm just going to plug Chat GPT into my Salesforce environment and I'm not going to have any support problems anymore. That by definition is too good to be true. So therefore it must be.
Yeah.
That's sort of another one, right?
Well, there was that beautiful story where I think one of the airlines actually did that, and somebody convinced the GPT of a new refund policy.
Yeah.
which obviously they didn't want to honor. It went to court, and the court actually ruled against them to say, well, it's a company policy because
it's against the airline. Yep.
Yeah.
And then that other one, the car company, where someone came in and asked, what car should I buy? This is my use case, and the GPT recommended a competitor's car, right? Because it was better for them.
Better for you, yeah.
I mean, it's doing its job. If it's,
yeah, right.
You're gaining their trust for sure.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that might not be a bad thing, in many cases. But I think, there's definitely, and this is where it comes back to getting that, people think about CRM, they think about the work involved in that. I don't think there's any getting around it, though. I mean, is there? It's sort of like medicine in some cases for a company, that you have to take this bit of a bitter pill and get your systems in order so that you can take advantage of. Do you see it that way, or is there a shortcut?
I think it's the cost of doing business these days, really. And the sooner you start, the less of a problem it is as you scale. So, even on day one, you have a single customer. Is it worth getting a CRM? My opinion is yes. Often, you might not have any data in it for a little while, but you start getting at least processes and systems in place today that you're not going to have to completely undo later.
It's like you have to get customer commerce fit. You can't just go and run a marathon, right? Yeah. You have to do a whole bunch of 5Ks, and then you have to get to 10K, and then 15, and then 20, and then 30, and then 40. And if you're not building those processes in as you grow, trying to just plonk it in when you're already at 5 million revenue is
recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it's challenging as hell.
Yeah.
Have you seen both sides of that? Have you seen companies do it right from the beginning and companies throw it in at the end? I mean,
we definitely see a lot of people throwing it in at the end. We've had a number of conversations this week of customers that have been operating for 5, 10, 15 years and are still using a mixture of spreadsheets.
Right.
We kind of all go off. We thought we were over that part of our transition as a business community, but it's still a very real thing. Have there been many customers or companies that I've seen do it right from the beginning? No. It's probably the short answer.
It's surprisingly rare. And I think out of all of the customers we have at Store Connect, I only know of one.
Yep.
And that was our friends at Beyond Plumbing. There were 3 plumbers got together, 3 dads, and per their own admission, they know nothing about software. And the first thing they did, they registered their company, and within 2 weeks of registering the business, they bought Store Connect and Salesforce and Google Mail, and I think a stock management system called Now. And they have just grown their business from day one. And they never, in his words, he's like, the cool thing about this is we can just keep scaling, and we never have to get to a point where we go, okay, now we have to get serious and put in, I don't think he actually said that way, but like he never has to get to a point where, oh crap, now we've outscaled the model, and now we need to re-platform, right? That just won't happen to them, because there's no way that a plumbing supply business is going to outscale Salesforce. And if they do, that's actually probably a pretty good problem to have. So it's like that's a really interesting. You see it, and that sort of business will be able to take advantage of this AI tooling because it's already in the platform, right?
Yes.
It's just a bolt-on now, right?
Yeah. But Beyond Plumbing, now that you mention it, Michael, because we've done a case study with them and I've interviewed them a couple of times as well. They didn't, from the very beginning, they didn't have that desire of like, we're going to build a company, we're going to make millions, and how do we get orders ASAP? They were like, we want to hang out with each other. We understand plumbers. They had that understanding from the very get-go about the difficult. It's like they already had the customer like commerce ingrained.
Yeah, that's right. They
and
wanted to help
funded.
their own brotherhood and sisterhood.
Exactly. So they could kind of take their time to go, let's do it properly, to have fun with it and then grow. It wasn't this like, I think the viewpoint was totally different.
You know, that's actually a really interesting point, because most people, and Michael, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of people sort of think of something like Salesforce and, you know, Store Connect or whatever as, okay, now we're going to get serious. You know, we're going to put in this, we're going to grow to a $50 million company and blah, blah, blah. We have to have all the right tooling in place. These guys went the totally other way. They were like, yeah, it'd be cool if we could make some profit out of this. You know, we may as well just do it right to begin with, because there's no point doing it if it's going to be a pain in the butt. That's a really interesting takeaway, Jess. I actually hadn't thought about that.
Super rare, right? And I think there's a lot of clients that'll go and either go, okay, well, I'm doing this now, to your point, Michael, because we're getting serious, or we're doing this now because
we don't have a choice.
We don't have a choice, or we're doing it now because we want to sell our business and we actually have no idea what's happened for the last 5 years. Like, we don't have any of that data, and now we all of a sudden need to scramble to get it, right? And then you have that other cohort where they go, okay, I just need something now, and they'll go with a relatively cheap, not really that fit for purpose solution that lasts them for a year and a half, and then they just deal with the pain for another 3 years. Or it becomes a big enough problem that they don't have a choice again, right? So I think if you are in a position where you're starting a business and you have the opportunity to make some really key decisions now on some of that tech, and, you know, bearing in mind, yes, Salesforce is a per user, per month kind of basis as an example. But, you know, whether it's $200, $300 or $100, if you're just one person, it's still only $300.
Yeah.
And sure, when you scale to 50 people, that's a different conversation. And obviously you then go and negotiate with Salesforce for a better contract, right? But I think, again, if you get it right in the beginning, so much less stress later on. And again, helps you scale your business, and you're not going to outscale the platform. So
yeah. And one of his comments was, we are very confident in the fact, and sorry, Rick, I'm totally paraphrasing you here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he's very confident in the fact that it doesn't really matter how they want to expand the platform or grow. It's a matter of how, not if. Like on some of those other platforms that you were talking about, Michael, you know, you buy the thing and it's $20 a month for the user, and okay, that works. And now we want to do blah, and it's like, well, we can't, you know, or we have to buy another platform for that. And now we need to do an integration, and now there's that nightmare. And then you do that 4 times, and now you've got a spider's web of integrations, and you start paying. My favorite quote of uselessness is paying people to get computers to talk to computers, right? It just happens so much out there that it's ridiculous. Whereas what Rick mentions is, every time we wanted to do something, the answer wasn't you can't. It was like, well, okay, yeah, you could do it this way or this way or this way. How much do you want to spend? Like, how important is this to you? What's the ROI? And then they can make informed decisions to expand their platform and deliver that customer service to their clients. And, you know, they've now got data on every plumber that's worked with them. Their entire purchase history is just sitting there in Salesforce. I mean, that's incredibly powerful for the future, and being able to decide that. It's really interesting.
So there's your answer to your question earlier. Can you personalize the experience? Well, they can.
Only if you've got the data, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, is there anything before we wrap up this episode, Michael, MD, to the MD? Is there anything?
The original MD.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to add in terms of, I don't know, what
hot tip for someone looking at CRM?
CRM. Well,
and for those that might not know, CRM is customer relationship management. I mean, we may as well define it.
Always define your acronyms, Michael.
Yes.
Always define your acronyms. So yes, under that umbrella, I guess, you know, CRM these days is such a broad concept.
That is actually true, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I often think of talking less about CRM as, almost that kind of BPM space, right? And business process management space, in terms of it's just another automation engine, but it has your customer data in it. So it becomes more important and more impactful, right? So I think for me, as much as you can get a single pane of glass, remove silos, or we're talking about islands now. Silos are so 1990s. We're now data islands.
Data islands.
Yeah. So connecting those data islands and bringing your data into one place and unifying your customer so you can better engage them and personalize their journey going forward is really the sales messaging at the moment when you go and talk to Salesforce, right? But I think for me, it's about just getting started, not having the urge to be a magpie in terms of where, especially when you're just starting out, right? So you have customers that I've seen where they've got a little bit of Salesforce, and then they're going, oh, I need a service management system, and they go and grab a service management system. It's like, well,
so do you mean, being like a magpie of just taking little bits from everywhere to build your nest?
Yeah, lots of shiny stuff, right? So it's they love coins, they love everything, anything shiny. So, and then you go and see a new BI tool, and you want to go and build reports on something that looks sexy over there, and you go run off and you go do that, and go, actually, none of my data is connected to this thing. And then you go, oh, I've got a service management team. And you go and run off and get a field service management solution, and go, oh, actually, again, it's not connected. And you have to then try and plumb all the stuff together again. It's like, I think there's always a question and this little balancing act of single platform versus best of breed.
Yeah.
And I think, really, sometimes it's not a decision you can just make by yourself. You need to go and speak to vendors, speak to partners, seek advice, so you don't make decisions that you'll ultimately kind of regret, or that is going to slow down your growth, right? So you don't want to be dealing with like tech issues and operational rubbish when you should be dealing with the growth story and really reinvesting in your business. So that's kind of my 2 cents. More difficult to achieve sometimes in reality, especially with all that noise that we have right now, right?
It's like the false economy of doing that versus, well, if we invest a little bit more, we'll get a better overall outcome with that, again, that customer commerce relationship and being able to understand that client.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, great.
Well, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
And Jess. Thank you, Michael and Michael.
I'm also loving the fact that Michael is also visually Michael Diamond as well, with the picture of the diamond behind you.
Oh, yes, that's actually a ruby.
A ruby?
Yeah,
I'll take it,
ruby. One of my...
The Princess
Interactive is a Ruby on Rails development organization.
There you go.
And one of my staff's wife actually is an artist, and they gifted that to me because I helped them actually immigrate to Australia from France. We went above and beyond what was needed, and we helped relocate their whole family, and that was their gift to me. And I think it looks freaking awesome.
Beautiful.
To be honest.
Yeah,
it's hand drawn.
Well, I'm going to call you Michael Ruby from now on.
Michael Ruby, okay, I can deal with that.
I love it. Well, MD, Michael Diamond, we are going to put your details, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff to Arcurious in the show notes.
And also we should put the Arise Foundation in there as well. Let's drive some traffic there.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll have to have you back on maybe in a few months, to do another little topic special. But thank you so much for your time. Listeners, thank you so much for listening, doing that job. And we'll come at you this time next week for another one.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you had an awesome time, leaving you with ideas on how to improve your business and wow customers. If you'd like to leave a real customer's story, head to the link in our show notes and cuss away. Love the show? Please subscribe and leave a review, because that enables us to help more businesses in building real relationships with customers and grow more rapidly. See you next time.